It's been real.
Yo, talk to court. Let's make this all work out.
You've heard of the Kardashian curse, but have you heard about the supposed curse surrounding one of the most famous award shows of all time?
And the Oscar goes to?
And the Oscar goes to?
Today on The Taco, we're going to be spilling the tea on the infamous Oscars.
Thank you so much to the Academy.
The 2019 show will be the first time in 30 years there's nobody to host the event.
The big question tonight involving the Oscars, who will host? Well, possibly no one.
We'll let you know what made comedian Kevin Hart step down and why nobody is stepping up to take his place.
The host of this year's Oscars will be no one.
We'll also talk about who got snubbed and why you might see some less than happy faces in the audience this year.
In just a moment, we will present Hollywood's top glamour event of the year, the 32nd star-studded Academy Awards presentation.
The Academy Awards is a star-studded event filled with celebrities dressed their best and celebrating their hard work. But it's not all lavish red carpet fashion and applause. In fact, there is not only one alleged curse plaguing the event, but two.
And the winner is Sandra Bullock in the Blinds.
Winning an Oscar is supposed to be the highlight of an actor's career, but oftentimes people find their celebrity status rapidly declining when they take their reward home.
Oh my God.
Adrian Brody won the Best Actor Oscar after appearing in 2002's The Pianist, and then pretty much dropped off the face of the earth. He had some minor roles, but none truly worthy of his acting talent. Precious was a great movie filled with memorable performances, but none shocked us the way Monique did.
And the winner is Monique.
It wasn't a surprise when she took home an Oscar for the role, but we were rather shocked when she stopped acting for 5 years afterwards. Then there's the Oscar love curse, which is a superstition that supposedly only affects women who take home an award. The story goes that whoever wins the Academy Award for Best Actress will soon find herself in romantic turmoil. Either her partner will cheat on her, leave her, or possibly both. This also sometimes happens with the Best Supporting Actress award as well. And for a while, it looked as though our beloved streaming service had its own version of the Oscars curse. Despite putting out tons of great content, Netflix just couldn't seem to impress when it came to the Academy Awards.
Icarus.
In 2018, it won an award for Best Documentary Feature for Icarus, but failing to be recognized for any major awards. This year, however, is a different story. Netflix is going into the Academy Awards with a total of 50 nominations. Not too shabby. These include Best Picture for Roma and 3 nominations for The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Some fans believe it's well past time Netflix gets recognition because of its amazing work. Others find these decisions rather controversial. You might be asking yourself, how can anyone hate on Netflix? Well, as we all know, Netflix has changed the way we access various forms of media. Traditionally, in order to qualify for an Academy Award, you had to have theatrical release. Because Netflix is a streaming service, it ran into some trouble in this area, and not just at the Oscars. They were forced to pull out of the Cannes Film Festival after a rule change which disqualified the content produced by the streaming platform. Legendary director Steven Spielberg had criticized Netflix and their content by saying, "Once you commit to a television format, you're a TV movie." Okay, well at least Netflix didn't ruin the Roald Dahl's classic, the BFG. Anyway, Netflix was determined to circumvent this issue by giving some of its movies, including The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Roma, and Bird Box, theatrical runs. These exclusive viewings occurred before the movies were sent to their streaming platform, but it still wasn't enough to satisfy some people. Despite this, Netflix has reportedly spent about $20 million on their Roma Oscar campaign, so it's clear they hope to win this year. But only time will tell if they manage to beat out movies released in a more traditional format. And who's going to be handing out awards this year as the Academy Awards? Well, that's a bit of a complicated subject at the moment. It was announced that Kevin Hart would be the esteemed host of the evening, and at first he seemed like a safe choice to many. But there were those of us who questioned the wisdom of choosing someone who has made controversial and homophobic statements in the past. In 2010, Kevin talked about the possibility of his son being gay during a stand-up special, and he wasn't happy about it. He talked about being afraid of his son not being straight and claimed he would do anything possible to prevent it from happening.
If I can prevent my son from being gay, I will.
That's not at all how that works, but okay. He then added, "I'm not homophobic," which also isn't how that works.
My biggest fears is my son growing up and being gay.
And that wasn't a lone incident of a badly conceived joke. The following year, Kevin Hart tweeted that if he were to find his young son playing with a dollhouse, he would break the toy over his head and then tell him, "Stop, that's gay." During 2015, Kevin claimed he would no longer make such jokes going forward, but not because he had learned better and regretted his actions. He stated, "When I said it, the times weren't as sensitive as they are now." Kevin accused his detractors of making a big deal out of nothing just because they can.
And I've said everything that I can possibly say, so I'm over it.
There was a time when not just celebrities, but pretty much anyone could easily get away with saying whatever they wanted with no repercussions. But now when you put it out there online, it's much harder to walk back from, and there is lasting evidence. Director James Gunn was on top of the world, or should we say the galaxy, after directing the first two wildly successful Guardians of the Galaxy movies. He was all set to direct the third movie in the franchise when some questionable tweets he made years ago came back to haunt him. He was fired from the project despite his apologies, and the highly anticipated movie currently has no release date. When the Academy announced Kevin Hart would be hosting the Oscars, many eyebrows were raised. After all, Kevin was caught cheating on his pregnant wife, and he somehow convinced her to forgive him. Surely he could do the same with the American public. After all, he had once called hosting the Oscars the opportunity of a lifetime for me as a comedian. Even his mother was thrilled with the opportunity presented to her son and was reportedly smiling from ear to ear. Well, he probably could have apologized, but of course he chose not to. Instead, he started posing on social media, accusing the world of becoming beyond crazy, and blamed people for being upset about his statements.
I'm not going to let the craziness frustrate me or...
He called his detractors internet trolls and said he refused to reward them.
That call basically said, "Kevin, apologize for your tweets of old."
Kevin announced, "I'm not going to do it, man. I'm going to be me. I'm going to stand my ground." Eventually, Kevin did end up apologizing via Twitter. He said, "I'm sorry that I hurt people. I am evolving and want to continue to do so. My goal is to bring people together, not tear us apart. Much love and appreciation to the Academy. I hope we can meet again." But even his eventual apology has been controversial, and not just with random people online. Even his fellow celebrities seem to be split on the issue. Openly gay actor Billy Eichner claims the LGBTQ community just wants some understanding and said he appreciates Kevin's apology. Meanwhile, Ricky Gervais says he's disappointed that Kevin apologized at all, tweeting, "The only time I'm disappointed with a comedian is when they apologize." Ellen DeGeneres tried to convince the Academy to rehire Kevin following his apology, but her efforts were in vain. Hosting the Academy Awards is a lot more involved than simply handing out trophies. It's a tough job and a tough spot to fill, especially this late in the game. So the Academy has decided to replace Kevin Hart with no one.
No host, no problem. The show has to go on. We're going to be all right.
That's right, nobody is going to be hosting the Oscars this year. Instead, the various presenters will be the focus of the event. It may seem shocking, but the Oscars has actually gone on without a host, albeit 30 years ago. Unfortunately, that was also an exceptionally controversial year for the Academy Awards. The opening number featured actor Rob Lowe and an actress dressed up as Snow White. The act was called an embarrassment to both the Academy and the entire motion picture industry. To make matters worse, Disney filed a legal action against the Academy on the grounds of copyright infringement. Eileen Bowman, who played Snow White, said the whole thing looked like a gay bar mitzvah, which actually sounds pretty awesome. Basically, it went as badly as it possibly could have, and this year isn't looking much better. With no official host, it seems as though the Academy is hoping celebrities will step up and perform duties usually done by the host. This might not be such a big deal, but reportedly the Academy isn't asking nicely. Allegedly, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has been using pressure and intimidation to convince celebs not to present at rival shows. The Screen Actors Guild called out the Academy on their graceless pressure tactics and accused them of strong-arming celebrities to get what they want. They claim to have multiple reports of bad Academy behavior and accused them of trying to control the awards show talent pipeline. SAG called their actions utterly outrageous and unacceptable, as well as self-serving intimidation. It seems the Academy is getting desperate, especially since the 2018 Oscars received the lowest ratings yet. This has caused them to scramble when it comes to putting the 2019 show together, and everything seems to be going wrong. Only about 26.5 million viewers watched the 2018 show, which was an all-time low. This marked the first time in its decades-long history the Oscars were viewed by under 30 million people. In comparison, 2018 was also the lowest year for the Super Bowl since 2009, and it was 103.4 million viewers. Other than strong-arming their talent, is it possible the Academy could do something else to increase their viewership? Like, say, making their event more entertaining to watch? Sure, we like watching mega-rich celebrities receiving awards as much as the next person, but many people tune into award shows to see the performances. There is a Best Song category at the Oscars, and showcasing them at the air via live performances seems like a total no-brainer. Why wouldn't you want to put on as great a show as possible if you're trying to get people to tune in? And clearly, all 5 songs are great enough to be nominated for Academy Awards. However, it was being reported that only 2 out of the 5 nominated songs will end up being performed at the ceremony. These are Shallow from A Star Is Born, performed by Lady Gaga, and All the Stars by Kendrick Lamar and SZA from Black Panther. These songs will be performed live, but the other 3 were going to be tragically underutilized. Jennifer Hudson is being left on the sidelines instead of performing her song I'll Fight from the Ruth Bader Ginsburg documentary RBG. Then we have the country song When a Cowboy Trades His Spurs for Wings from the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, sung by Tim Blake Nelson and Willie Watson. Finally, there's The Place Where the Lost Things Go, sung by Emily Blunt in Mary Poppins Returns. With no host in sight, it seems like interesting action is going to be at an all-time minimum this year.
This is very unfortunate what happened.
However, ABC chief Carrie Burke has overthrown this plan, perhaps because of the whole Kevin Hart fiasco. She claims the Academy was originally going to have only 2 singers perform, but the plan is to now have all 5 songs sung, although she won't say who will be performing. It seems like ABC is actually banking on a lot of the Kevin Hart controversy in order to generate ratings this year. This is surprisingly not the first time the Academy Awards has made questionable musical choices. Back in 2013, the Oscars allowed non-musician Seth MacFarlane to sing, which only left time for 1 more musical number. Adele did a great job singing Skyfall, but the other nominees got nothing more than a quick musical montage. In 2016, only 3 of the nominees were allowed to perform, and people weren't happy about it. Fans and celebrities alike have complained about the unequal representation of musicians at the Academy Awards, and it seems as though this issue is still being unaddressed. Not only are there many controversies surrounding the event itself, but its nominations have also proven to have their own issues. Many felt Bradley Cooper was snubbed because he didn't get a Best Director nomination for his work on A Star Is Born. However, he was nominated for Best Actor, and Lady Gaga and Sam Elliott were also nominated for Best Actress and Best Supporting Actor, respectively. According to Lady Gaga, Bradley Cooper knows he's the Best Director as far as the cast is concerned, so she isn't losing any sleep over this supposed snub. However, Bradley Cooper had a very different reaction to learning he didn't get the nomination for Best Director.
The first thing I felt was embarrassment, actually.
He admits to feeling embarrassed and wonders if he could have done his job better. Bradley says he put his heart and soul into A Star Is Born, and he was so nervous before the film's premiere that he felt nauseous. Making the movie made him feel vulnerable, and not being validated for Best Director made him feel like a failure at first. However, he comforts himself with the knowledge that many people got to enjoy the story told in the film. We're sure the piles and piles of money the movie made also helps him sleep at night. Bohemian Rhapsody was a hit at the box office, taking in nearly $800 million worldwide. It seems like a no-brainer it would be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Especially after taking home a Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture Drama. It's also been nominated for Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. These accolades notwithstanding, there are many reasons people aren't happy about seeing Bohemian Rhapsody on the list of Oscars nominations. The film's original director, Bryan Singer, was unceremoniously fired during filming. There were rumors he and actor Rami Malek had butted heads while filming, which led to his termination. Rami is notoriously tight-lipped about his personal life, but he admitted working with Brian was not pleasant. Rami believed Brian's firing was inevitable, but admits it took him by surprise. However, Singer himself says while he and Rami had their differences, they were able to work things out professionally between themselves.
Roger, there's only room in this band for one hysterical queen.
Instead, he accused the studio of being unwilling to work with him in light of some health issues. Brian claims he was undergoing some challenges which impacted his schedule, and the studio wasn't willing to work with him. Of course, 20th Century Fox tells a different story. They claim Brian was notoriously unreliable, and they just couldn't take him not showing up on set when he was supposed to be there. They let him go and replaced him with director Dexter Fletcher, who finished up the movie. Despite this, Brian still received the director's credit for the movie, which makes some people uncomfortable. In addition to the allegations of poor work behavior, Brian has also been accused of misconduct with a teenager. Although Brian denies all of the claims levied against him, it certainly doesn't look good. It's not hard to see why people aren't happy about a movie with his name attached to it getting nominated for an Academy Award. And Bryan Singer isn't the only issue people have with Bohemian Rhapsody. Ever since the first trailer was released, people have accused the movie of straight-washing the sexuality of Freddie Mercury.
You're bloody right I am.
Although there are some scenes involving Freddie with other men, they're always portrayed in a somewhat malicious light, and a stark contrast to his scenes with female characters. The real Freddie Mercury was known to have relationships with both men and women, including one with his longtime friend Barbara Valentin. Green Book is another movie competing for Best Picture, and it seems like the cast is having a contest to see who can be the most offensive. During a panel promoting the movie, actor Viggo Mortensen was accompanied by his co-star Mahershala Ali when he uttered an extremely offensive racial slur. People who were in attendance at the event claimed it created an extremely awkward and uncomfortable atmosphere. To his credit, Viggo apologized and said he had no right to even imagine the hurt that is caused by hearing the word in any context. Mahershala confirmed the word is always hurtful, but says he accepts Viggo's apology and believes it's sincere. This incident might have been resolved, but there were some considerable issues with Green Book itself. The movie claims to tell the story of musician Don Shirley and his driver and bodyguard, Tony Vallelonga, but was condemned for its historical inaccuracy. Don's brother Maurice called the films a symphony of lies, which is a pretty harsh criticism. He claims Mahershala himself apologized, saying he had done the best he could with the material he had to work with. Apparently, his family feels they weren't consulted, and as a result, the portrayal of Don was wildly inaccurate. Like Bohemian Rhapsody, the success of Green Book was also marred by some directorial issues. The movie was directed by Peter Farrelly, and some issues about his on-set behavior. Reports surfaced that throughout his career in the 90s, Peter would play a joke on the cast and crew by exposing himself to them. Yikes, again, we hopefully don't have to explain why this isn't great. Peter himself called himself an idiot because of this and says that at the time he thought he was just being funny. Now he claims he is embarrassed and says thinking of his past behavior makes him cringe, and he is deeply sorry. Meanwhile, Detainment proved you don't have to be a full-length film to cause a major Oscars controversy. The short film was nominated for Best Live-Action Short Film, but not everyone was happy about it. Detainment is based on a real event which happened in 1993 where 2-year-old James Bulger lost his life at the hands of two 10-year-old children. It was a tragic and seemingly senseless event which tore 3 families apart. The movie incorporates real-life police interviews with perpetrators Robert Thompson and John Venables, in addition to traditional acting. Denise Fergus is the mother of the victim, James Bulger, and she's furious the movie even got made in the first place, let alone that it was nominated for an Academy Award. She requested it be removed from consideration and is livid her request was not respected. Denise claims she wasn't even aware such a movie was being made about her son until it was too late. Not only was she not asked for permission, she wasn't even given the courtesy of a heads up. This is something director Vincent Lam has apologized for, claiming he relied solely on factual material when creating Detainment. Because of this, he didn't contact any of the families involved in the real event. He added, "I have enormous sympathy for the Bulger family, and I am extremely sorry for any upset the film has caused them." However, his words have done little to soothe the mind of James' mother, who claims she is disgusted and upset about the project. She hates that she was forced to relive the worst moment of her life all over again, and that child actors were involved in the movie. The Academy also apologized and offered their condolences, but refused to back down on their nomination. They claimed their choice was based on the film's creative, artistic, and technical merits. The Academy says their choice was neutral, and while they sympathize with the family, they won't let it impact their decision. And although Vincent Lam claimed to be sympathetic to James's family, he refused to withdraw the movie from the Oscars consideration. He said it would defeat the purpose of making the movie in the first place. And if you haven't seen Detainment or aren't familiar with the story, both of the children charged were given new identities and released back into new society. So there's that. But Vincent believes that while the boys may have committed something atrocious, it doesn't mean they are necessarily evil people. He believes it's important to objectively examine the case and understand why it happened. Vincent hopes his movie could prevent something like what happened to James Bulger from happening to another child. Another questionable inclusion in the Academy Awards list of nominees is the German film Never Look Away. It's been nominated for both Best Foreign Language Film and Best Cinematography categories. It's based on the life of an actual artist who has had some serious issues with the way he's been portrayed in the movie. Gerard Richter was the inspiration for the character of Kurt Barnett, who's played by actor Tom Schilling. The character belongs to a family whose family experienced many atrocities committed against them during World War II. In the real world, Gerard became successful in East Germany before eventually relocating to the West. Director Florian Henkel von Donnersmarck conducted interviews with Gerard and, with his consent, recorded their sessions. He believes Gerard's story is inspiring and showcases his resilience in the face of adversity and the power of art. According to Florian, Gerard was enthusiastic about the project and extremely forthcoming during their talks. However, he also admits he did take some creative licenses with the story. He believes in order to adapt Gerard's story to a film, it had to be edited in some ways, and it was never his intention to stick 100% to the cold hard facts. Florian vowed to keep quiet about what was real and what was fictional, which he hoped would provide Gerard with some privacy from the general public. But Gerard disagrees with Florian's assessment and said the film was far too sensational and had almost no basis in reality. Florian argues that it's not a biography of Gerard, but the story of fictional painter Kurt Barnett. However, Gerard feels Florian has done everything possible to link his name to the movie and implies it's more biographical than fictional. Needless to say, Gerard is less than thrilled about the additional publicity generated for the film since it's been nominated for an Academy Award. Although the movie has been a success at the box office, it's been a disturbing experience for the artist. While some movie nominations have caused controversy at the Academy Awards, the lack of nominations has also raised a few eyebrows, particularly when it comes to women being honored for their contributions to cinema.
At the 37th Annual Awards Presentation.
The Oscars have been an institution in Hollywood for 91 years, and in that time they have only recognized 5 women in the category of Best Director. These include Lena Wertmuller for the movie Seven Beauties in 1975, Jane Champion for The Piano in 1994, Sofia Coppola for Lost in Translation in 2003, and Catherine Bigelow for The Hurt Locker in 2009. The last woman to be nominated was Greta Gerwig, who made the list in 2017 with the movie Lady Bird. And out of those 5 women, only a single one of them, Catherine Bigelow, has ever won. And in case you're wondering if there were any notable female directors this year, the answer is yes. There were some omissions which were frankly glaring this year, including Deborah Granick, who directed Leave No Trace, and Marielle Heller, who directed Can You Ever Forgive Me? Other snubbed female directors include Karen Kusama of Destroyer, Lynn Ramsey of You Were Never Really Here, and Chloe Zhao of The Writer. Needless to say, there is no shortage of controversies at the Oscars this year, or any other year, if we're being honest.
It's really just been a rough year for the Academy all round.
With ratings at an all-time low and the integrity of the Academy itself called into question, is it any surprise they're struggling to find someone to host the event? They say any publicity is good publicity, so why are there so many celebrities reluctant to step up and host the Oscars? We're sure you all remember what went down at the 2017 Oscars when PricewaterhouseCoopers accountant Brian Cullinan was too busy tweeting pics of Emma Stone to do his job. He handed presenters Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway the wrong envelope. The result was that La La Land was announced as the winner of the Best Picture award when Moonlight was the real winner. Oops.
We lost, by the way, but, you know.
Although he wasn't presenting the award himself, the host of the evening was talk show host Jimmy Kimmel, who didn't seem overly surprised by the mix-up.
Personally, I blame Steve Harvey for this.
However, he was regretful and claimed to blame himself as the host for the mistake. This was actually Jimmy Kimmel's first time hosting the Oscars, and like many celebrities who have done it more than once, he's finally vowed never again. He's in good company because celebs like Ellen DeGeneres, Hugh Jackman, Chris Rock, and Jon Stewart have also hosted twice, and most of them say they would never do it again.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences.
But it didn't always used to be like this. In fact, in the early days of the Oscars, it was considered a privilege to host, not an obligation. And many of the stars who took on the honor did so for years and years. Johnny Carson hosted 5 times, Billy Crystal hosted 9 times, and Bob Hope hosted an astonishing 19 times. Compare that to today, when the Academy can't even get a single person to host their event. What happened to make hosting the Oscars a career highlight to an obligation nobody wants to take on? Since the Oscars won't have a host this year, even more pressure is being put on the presenters who will be handing out awards. And after the Moonlight La La Land fiasco, the pressure is really on the presenters this year. Traditionally, the awards are handed out by prior Oscar winners from the year before. It's a sentimental tradition, kind of like passing along the torch to the next celeb to win the award. Actress Allison Janney won her very first Oscar last year for Best Supporting Actress due to her work on I, Tonya. She was handed the award by Mahershala Ali, who had won for his work in Moonlight. But Allison claims she will not be presenting an award this year and claims it breaks her heart that the Academy has done away with this tradition. Although she's since deleted the social media post, fans can't help but wonder just what is going on this year. It seems as though the Academy is trying to focus on a mainstream audience by presenting people and films they believe are popular. Some people blame relatively obscure films winning awards on the reason why viewership has declined so much, and it seems as though the Academy is desperately trying to fix that this year. They're also considerably shortening the event, which has run over 4 hours long in the past.
Its plan to cut certain categories is now officially out of the picture.
This year, they're desperately trying to limit it to 3 hours, meaning each award winner only has 90 seconds to make a speech and get off the stage. ABC hopes not having a host will help speed up the whole process. Another idea about how to speed things up went over like a lead balloon, to say the least. News broke that the Academy was going to announce the winner of Best Cinematography during a commercial break. The tech categories overall would be awarded during commercial breaks and then broadcast in a separate time slot later in the evening. Immediately, people were furious, pointing out that filmmaking doesn't just involve the people in front of the camera. There is so much work which goes into making movies, and what the Academy was proposing seemed downright disrespectful.
Without my cinematographer, without my editor, without hair and makeup, there is no movie.
People were so upset that the Academy agreed to postpone the idea, at least for now.
What do we do now?
Well, we read the list of nominees for the Best Achievement in Sound.
If you think Oscars controversy is new, think again. They've been around since 1929, but those small affairs were nothing like we have today. The award portion of the evening was a mere 15 minutes long, followed by a nice dinner. It was a far cry from the spectacle they are today, but that doesn't mean complaining about them is new. In 1970, actor George C. Scott was nominated for his work in the movie Patton and protested the event by not showing up. He declared the ceremonies are a 2-hour meat parade, a public display with contrived suspense for economic reasons. Yikes, we wonder how he would feel to know the Oscars are typically twice as long today. Although maybe he eventually changed his mind, since he did make an appearance at the 1982 Oscars. But is the problem truly with the Academy Awards themselves, or can the falling ratings be explained by today's ever-changing world? Yes, fewer people are watching the Oscars today than ever before, but fewer people are also watching television than ever before. We have so many new ways of consuming media now that the question is no longer what do we watch, but how do we watch it? After all, who wants to sit through an event filled with tons of commercials when you can just turn on Netflix or Hulu? It would have to be something extremely compelling to get people to tune in for hours on end, and even then, it's a big ask for a lot of people who are used to watching things differently. As a whole, ABC's ratings have been going down. They decreased 8% in 2016, a further 11% in 2017, and 3% on top of that in 2018. The Oscars are declining in popularity, but so is ABC and so is network television in general. We like to think that the Academy favors the quality of art over all else, but they also have to think about their own survival. If people stop watching and the event isn't making money, they won't have a show anymore. And historically, the events which feature more mainstream and popular movies have managed to pull in the most viewers. They tried to get a star to host this year, and when that failed, they tried to get big stars to hand off awards, breaking a long and treasured tradition. Some people may be upset by all the concessions and changes the Academy seems to be making, and that's a fair criticism. But at the same time, they're also doing what they feel must be done in order to stay afloat. Critics of the Academy Awards claim they are nothing more than a way to give airtime to people who are already famous. They feel the awards should be about honoring those who put effort into every aspect of filmmaking, from inception to development to post-production. The fact that the Academy was even considering not giving filmmakers the same accolades as actors is worrying. Only time will tell what is in store for the Academy Awards and if there will even be a place for them in the future. What do you think about the 2019 Academy Awards? Do you think they're destined to be a disaster, or does all of the controversy keep things interesting? Share your thoughts and opinions with us in the comments section, and then click on the subscribe button for the latest videos from us here at The Taco. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.